All right, so I'm here with this Bally Addams family. So first thing I did was just went ahead and did kind of what I consider good housekeeping on the board front before we even get down into the play field. Um, so this one, the CPU didn't have a ton of corrosion, but it had enough that it was getting up into the ASIC chip here. And it was getting, there was some on these pins over here. And just the more I looked at it, it was just all over the place, even though it wasn't like a ton. And I finally, this guy just wants this thing reliable. These boards here come from Andrew over at mvram.weebly.com. Great board. One of the most inexpensive ones you can get with shipping. I love using his stuff on the Bally machines. I've used them on the Williams 3 through 7s. And he makes this board for the WPC 89, but great board. So I just ended up replacing it. I did burn the gold ROMs, which I checked with the owner if it was okay to do that. I personally like the gold ROMs. I guess not everybody does, but I enjoy them and think it's kind of an upgrade. The driver board, I did C2, which I always do on these machines. C4, which I always do. C5, which I usually just go ahead and do whether it technically needs it or not. I did some reflows throughout. The input from the logic input from the transformer here was burnt, this connector, so that was repinned. General elimination, 120 and 121 here, these are actually daisy chained. This needed to be repinned. Somebody had already repinned the input of the GI, which is this one over here, 115. And there's a mod here and another mod from somewhere down in the playfield, I guess, that somebody had just direct soldered into the test points over here on the board. I hate that, so I repinned those into this connector so that it looks cleaner and you can take the board out easier, and it's less of a problem. This game did, probably from this burnt connector and a few of the other things in the 5-volt line, have this car board on it, which steps down the 12 volts to 5 volts and helps prevent resets. I'm not a huge fan of that board. It's kind of a good band-aid fix, but it's not like a real fix. And at this point, it's it was already on the game, so I'm going to leave it on. But we probably fixed all the issues along the way. Again, this guy lives about 3 hours from me, so it's already there. I'm just going to leave it on. I just want this thing to work well for him and him to be able to get a lot of time out of it and really enjoy it. So, I wouldn't have put it on, but I'll leave it on for now. When I got down into the connectors here, a lot of times people will get corrosion on their board and then they'll just replace the board and still have problems. And it's because that corrosive gets down into the connectors down here. So somebody had already repinned, I believe, this one. But these two had corrosive in them, so I repinned them as well. After I did all that, we got some of the issues that the owner had said were problematic on the game resolved, which switch matrix issues can cause a load of problems. So that's why I always try to do the boards first, and then we get down into the playfield stuff, because if you do it backwards, you could be fighting stuff that doesn't even have anything to do with the game down in the cabinet itself. We're back here with Addams family. First off, let me apologize. I'm sick with something that's been on like 3 weeks, so I'll probably clear my throat or cough a few times getting through this. But anyway, I'm going to try to keep these videos pretty short and sweet and to the point. I know some people make them like an hour long and show you every turn of the screw. But I'm just going to kind of go over what I did, and hopefully there's some helpful information in there. We already went through the boards, so now we're going down to the playfield itself. If you can see, there is a 3-prong plug that I put on here. It was missing the ground prong, so I added a 3-prong. When I got into this, the LEDs all through the GI were different colors. They were red and green and blue, and the whole playfield's just incredibly dark from that. So I did do Comet 2SMD natural whites throughout, and that just brightens up the whole playfield. I did leave the controlled lights, the LEDs color match that were in there. They look fine. They're not on all the time. They're not there to to brighten the game up. I did a few in the back box as well. And somebody had put just regular LEDs in the 44 sockets, which these are supposed to be 455s. So if you can see all the little flashes, which looks like the lightning bolt, that's from the 455s that I swapped out. This pop bumper right here was incredibly loose. You could just move it back and forth. There's 2 screws that secure the bumper itself down there. You can see there's one over here. So I just took the top off and screwed that in so it's nice and secure. The thing flipper was not working, or not working automatically. So what happens is when you get this light lit, thing flips. This flipper will flip without having to press the flipper button. And how it does that is this optic right here. And it's actually interesting. It's actually really early machine learning, because it'll adjust where it flips to try to get it into the swamp over here. So it'll kind of learn every time it does it. But this optic wasn't working. It was a problem on the receiver end. You can use a little remote IR transmitter card to see if the transmitter's working, which it was. And you can actually use your light to flash by and switch test on the receiver side. And when it goes by the light on your cell phone, it'll register that switch. This one ended up being the little cover for the that goes over the receiver optic had broken, and it was just kind of sitting in there all goofy like. And causing this optic not to work. This is something I put on every Addams family if it doesn't have it, as a Cliffy protector or hole protector here for the scoop. This just gets eaten up because it gets the ball shot out of there so many times over the years. This one wasn't terrible. You can see a little bit around the edge here where it's kind of had eaten the wood. But I went ahead and put that on. I did put new nice shiny balls in the game. New balls are the cheapest, easiest way to keep your playfield looking nice, because if the balls are all pitted and rough around the edges, then it's just, like sandpaper rolling on the playfield. So we did that. The owner had told me that the bookcase wasn't turning, thing wasn't picking stuff up, this diverter wasn't working. All of that stuff got solved up with the boards. So again, that's why I try to do board stuff first, so then we know we're all good downstream. And that saved me sitting here worrying about stuff that wasn't even really an issue. Underneath the playfield now. So this flipper mech was really loose. I tightened it up on all these screws around on the bracket. All of the flippers got new plunger and links, new springs, new coil stops, and new coil stop screws, and new coil sleeves. On this era game, the end of stroke switch is not as important. On the earlier games, the end of stroke switch, when it was closed, was high power. When it was open, it was low power. On the earlier Williams games. On this era that uses Fliptronics, it's actually a solid state Fliptronics board, and it's a timed release on going from high power to the hold power. So there are still some things, like if a kickback kicks back, where the flipper won't fall down, and things like that, where the EOS switches, are used technically. But since all of these switches were not broken and still working, there was no reason to spend the extra time to unscrew them and solder a new one in, et cetera, for a system that it's really not that important. Then this one got a new coil because the coil sleeve was jammed up in the coil. Whenever that happens, it restricts the motion too much, and I change it. This one had a new coil put in at some point. And then this one down here got a new coil as well. So both right sides, new coils. Everything got new plungers and links and springs and coil stops screws and dialed into where they feel nice. And I believe that was really everything from under the playfield as well. Shockingly, all the pop bumpers were fine and none of the yokes were broken on them. No wires were off, kind of the stuff that you just could see on any given day. The only other thing I did up here that I felt like was a good thing to do was put new Perfect Play rubbers, red, on the 4 flippers. The old rubbers just kind of looked gross. And if it's got new nice snappy flippers, then it should have the nice cheap new rubbers on it. So I think that's about everything. The owner had said something about replacing the display, but the display in display test works perfectly. There were no lines out or anything like that. So that's kind of been the whole go through on this one. A lot of it's just normal stuff that you see after 30 years. Your flippers almost always are going to need some love. Your boards are always going to need some love at this point if they haven't gotten it. Connector repins, just all basic kind of stuff. And then, as far as cosmetic, was putting the right bulbs in there and putting some nice general illumination that actually lights the game up and doesn't just look like a Christmas tree.